shameless brag here. I've only ever lost money on 2 guitars. 2. One of them was a Guild D40 that, sure, I was going to lose money on from the time I bought it. It was my first vintage guitar. I lost $100 on it. There is a guitar that I lost my shirt on, and I made a video about it because I got to find that guitar. Now, this video comes, I want to show you a video from a couple years ago. This video comes from an old video that was in Write Guitars Faster, which was a course that I was selling for a couple years on how to buy the right guitar, sell the wrong guitars, end up with a meaningful guitar collection. But this video, I just want to show you because it's wild. I get to find my Huss & Dalton DRH Custom that I bought the wrong guitar, paid too much money for it, sold it when I was, you know, down on my luck. But check this video out. Tell me what you think about it, and then come back here at the end, and we'll do a little closing. Buying the wrong guitar, for me, it was incredibly embarrassing. I've only ever lost money on 2 guitars, and I lost a little bit of money. I basically got my money out of a guitar, out of my Guild D40, bought it for $400, sold it for $300 after playing it for like 4 or 5 years. But there's another guitar right here that is the actual guitar that I lost, almost $2,000 I lost on this guitar. This is my 2008 Huss & Dalton DRH Custom. This guitar was sold to me by Heinz Musitronics in Charlottesville, Virginia. This guitar is incredibly beautiful. It is bright, wide grain red spruce on the top. I'll show you some pictures along the way. This guitar was not the guitar that I intended to buy, but I was so firmly talked into this guitar by a really excited, winsome salesperson. And this is a situation in which a salesperson talked me into a guitar that was really wrong. Now, there are a bunch of things wrong with this situation. So here's the general story, and I'll point out some things as I've thought about them through the years. I bought this guitar the summer after my mom died. And traumatic events tend to not be the best time to make large financial decisions. I probably should have waited a while. I was working at the guitar shop full time, and my mom had died, and I just wanted to enjoy life and a guitar. And so I got a big chunk of money from a guitar that I had bought. So I was way in the black. So I bought a 1991 Gibson ES335 dot reissue. It had the pink case. It was very cool. I regret that one. I have tried to find that one, but I bought that guitar for $1,400. I sold that guitar for $2,800. And so I had this big chunk of money that then I could add some more money, and I knew I wanted to get a Huss & Dalton. I went to Huss & Dalton, I did the tour, I saw all these guitars that I was so excited about, and the biggest one that I was the most excited about was the DS. I loved the round shoulder. I thought I wanted a J45 kind of guitar. I think I knew enough about scale length to know that would have made a guitar that would have been really comfortable for me. But just what ended up happening was the salesperson was like, well, you have to get red spruce. If you're going to spend this much money, you might as well get a big red spruce top. I thought that red spruce, because it was more expensive, means it must be better, right? And so I was like, okay, red spruce. And he's like, and you should also do a bigger sound hole. Like, that's a really cool thing. It makes the guitar a little louder. I didn't think about, I thought, in your teens and early 20s, it's pretty easy to confuse loud and good. Those two things seem to go together for a long time. So I didn't know that having a guitar that was much louder wouldn't be something that I was into. And there's also this thing with kids. Like, think about little boys in particular, like middle school boys. There's a real confusion between, is it synonymous, or is there a correlation between obnoxious and funny? That's a mystery for the ages. I had gone through the tour. I looked at the DS. I liked the slope shoulders. I liked the shorter scale length. I could have been into a red spruce. That would have been a really cool guitar for me. But the guy at the guitar shop really was convinced that I should get a rosewood guitar because more expensive is more better. That I should get a red spruce top because more expensive is more better. And I should get a sound hole, a larger sound hole, because it's just what Tony Rice had. Now at the time, I just did not piece together that I don't play like Tony Rice. I don't play the music Tony Rice plays. And so anyway, I wound up with this guitar, and I remember the absolute first show I ever played with this. It wasn't really a show. It was a Bible study. I was leading Young Life. It was just a house with, probably 15 friends. And so I was just playing worship, and I went to play the guitar, and I'm going to move the mic up so you can hear this guitar. And I strummed it, and after I finished playing, people were like, wow, your guitar is way too loud. So this was the guitar that I came with. Now, the other thing with this guitar is that when I first got it, it had a paper white top. The top of this guitar, there was no aging toner, and so with it, it was like a sheet of paper. It has now become a really beautiful color, this really golden color. I'm excited. It's very cool. Now, there's been 10 years since I last saw this guitar to today when I've seen it for the first time. And so my first reactions, this guitar is not what I thought it's not what I remembered it to be, and it's also different than I know for sure it was when I got rid of it. So the biggest way I already mentioned, the biggest way that this guitar is very different is that the top has mellowed out. It's very golden. Also the tone of this guitar, now I just restrung this. I played it a little bit when it still had kind of not dead strings, but strings with a couple weeks on them. And the guitar is very mellow. It's not as loud as I remember. Once I put new strings on it, it definitely is loud. And even the guy who owns it, the person who owns this now is my old guitar teacher. And I sold it to a friend. So let me tell the story of how let me keep telling the story. So I got this guitar, and I went to a small group and I played it, and it was way too loud. And then I started playing it around town, but I was really nervous every time because it's a $4,500. I think I paid right around $4,500. This is, still like, I think this is the most expensive guitar I've ever purchased for myself. And my Paget Model 1 is close, but this guitar is just very expensive. And so I was very dear about this guitar, very precious. I didn't take it many places because I didn't want to scratch it or ding it. That's another thing that's exciting now is that it has some dings, some wear, some play. It's been used. And so that's really good. But me at 20 years old, I realized pretty quickly within a couple weeks, oh man, I think I bought the wrong guitar. And I was embarrassed because I worked at a guitar shop and I was coaching people through finding the right guitar. I was selling people guitars all the time. And I just found myself, I felt embarrassed that I should have known this guitar. I also felt like there was something wrong with me, that I just didn't like a super loud red spruce top, rosewood back and sides bluegrass guitar, that there was something wrong with me, about me, in me, that I couldn't just get over it, and that I just didn't like this guitar. And there was, embarrassment, a lot of shame. I was frustrated with myself because I'd worked really hard. I was making minimum wage. I would make commission on certain guitars, and if I hit larger targets, I would make like an extra $50 if I sold certain guitars. But and I was in school full time, so this was hard-earned money, and I definitely knew that I bought the wrong guitar. So embarrassed, ashamed, frustrated, annoyed. And so I started thinking like, oh man, I probably should sell this guitar. Around that same time, I was engaged, and then I got married. And around the time that I had gotten married, my wife and I knew we wanted to have an adventure. We looked to move around the world, and we ended up moving to New Orleans, but we were looking to kind of free up some money to get to where we could travel and have an adventure. Now, both of us, we were able to finish school without any debt, which is amazing. And it's a gift from our families, definitely helped. But by and large, we still both worked. Like, we've worked pretty much full time since we were both 18. And but it came time as we're struggling to pay rent, or not struggling, but just we're in the crunch of being a brand new married couple trying to figure out life and pay for health insurance. And then I come home and I see that I have a $4,500 guitar that I don't like, I don't enjoy, it's too loud, it just doesn't work for me, and when I do play it, I'm embarrassed about it, that it's not right, and because the other thing that it was embarrassing was it's too loud, so I never felt like I was singing naturally, I never felt like I was playing naturally, I always felt like I was singing as loud as I could and playing as quiet as I could to try and blend out, and it just never worked. So I had this constant reminder in this tweed case sitting in the corner that it was not the right guitar for me. So it came time for me to sell this guitar. Now, how do you sell a guitar like a boutique guitar and an expensive guitar and a custom guitar? Because this guitar is, I mean, it says DRH Custom. If you go to Husson Dalton, they're going to see, oh, Jeremy Sheppard ordered this, and I think it was 2009. And it came to Heinz Musitronics in Charlottesville. And so I started reaching out to studio musicians and people I knew that were more connected in the bigger, more money-making kind of music. And I found a friend of mine who lived in Nashville, but he grew up around me, and he was an amazing player, and he actually played bass as his first instrument, and then my old guitar teacher was playing in his band. And so it ended up working out that I sold the guitar to him. Now, I took a bath on this guitar. I got every dollar I could out of him, but it was not the $4,500 I paid for it. I sold this guitar in the summer of 2012 for $2,750. And so it was a huge hit. It is the most money I've ever lost on a guitar. And so now let's do some postmortem. How did I get so wrong? What would I tell myself now at 34 years old, telling a 20-year-old? That's crazy that this guitar is 14 years old. Okay, so the number one thing that went wrong was that I didn't really know what I wanted when I went in there. And then the things I did know, I easily rolled over and let people talk me out of. I had a hunch that I wanted a Gibson-style guitar. I had a hunch that I wanted a round-shouldered. That's my dream, probably my dream Husson Dalton would be a DS Crossroads, which is their sunburst top, round-shouldered, red spruce, shorter scale. I'll put a picture up so you can see it. But yeah, I just was mesmerized by this kind of winsome guitar retailer. And so he ended up selling me the guitar that he wanted. He had dreamed of it, and like me, he worked in a guitar shop, so he didn't make enough money to order a custom guitar. And so I ended up just, unfortunately, buying the wrong guitar. So how do I feel now having seen this guitar? The top is much more golden and much more mellow. That was such a turnoff to me, was how paper white the top of this guitar was when I first got it. Also, the back and sides, the rosewood, it's still really beautiful and streaky and perfect, but it definitely is different. When I had it, it was very purpley. The finish seemed darker and the wood seemed a little purpley. And so it's mellowed out as it's gotten older. The other thing, there's definitely a lot more wear. There's a lot of wear here. It looks like maybe something in a pocket or the keys in the front pocket that have hit the bottom side of the guitar here. There's a lot more play on the top of the guitar. There's a couple little dings and dents and scratches, but it's aged really gracefully. And there's one design feature that I really didn't like on this guitar. And I want to be really careful because Husson Dalton are dear friends. But, I mean, this is a course. This isn't a YouTube video. So I can be more honest about this. So on the headstock here, the D string and the A string, I think it's just the shape of the headstock in general. But basically, the draw, or the line that the D string makes from the nut to the tuner, it will touch this A tuner and it will buzz. And I noticed it yesterday. It still does it. It's kind of when you're playing. It will hit resonant notes. Hear it? It's that high pitch, like way up here. And but it's just this tiny little hang up because the strings just touch behind the nut. So anyway, man, this guitar, my feelings as I get this guitar back to me, it's really cool. And but I also feel strong confirmation that selling this was the right decision. Selling this guitar funded my wife and I moving to Louisiana. If I wouldn't have moved to Louisiana, I wouldn't have gotten to a sales job and really gotten out and learned how to buy and sell guitars all around the country. I wouldn't have been in a sales job in which it would have afforded enough money that I could then buy and sell really cool guitars, figure out what I like. It also wouldn't have set me up to help sell a large collection. I ended up selling 4 estates of guitars while we were in Louisiana. And none of that would have happened without selling this guitar to fund those adventures. So I lost $2,000, but I also gained a lot of perspective on myself. That's a whole other part of this. But it funded an adventure, and adventures, it's really hard to come out of an adventure not knowing more about yourself. And yeah, so it's really exciting. I'm very excited that this guitar is still around. It's owned by my old guitar teacher, and he made sure, he's like, just make sure that you know that I don't lend guitars to people. And I was like, okay, I won't tell anyone that I'm borrowing a guitar from you, except anyone who sees this course and the internet. So, but I'm gonna play this some more, and then I want to just compare it to my Haas & Dalton TDM, because that's a guitar, and maybe I'll tie this all together. This video is a little freeform, as they tend to go, because while I'm filming this course, I found this guitar, and it was just the timing worked out that I could borrow it for a day. So I'm gonna play this, and then I'll play my Haas & Dalton TDM, and we'll just compare some notes and side grain, the wood grain too, because this is very wide. This is much tighter Sitka. So anyway, here's the Haas & Dalton this is the Haas & Dalton DRH Custom. This is a 2009 Haas & Dalton TDM. Now this guitar is very different than the DRH Custom. The DRH Custom is red spruce top and rosewood back and sides. This is Sitka spruce top and mahogany back and sides. Both ebony bridge, ebony fingerboard. This has tortoiseshell binding compared to the maple binding, but same scale length. Both are generally Martin style guitars. This is a much more traditional style guitar, open gear tuners, and just made to be a lot more folky. Traditional. There you go. Listen, we are all going to buy the wrong guitars. The response and the feelings you're probably going to have. You're going to feel embarrassed. You're going to feel ashamed. You're going to feel frustrated. You're going to feel angry that you wasted money. You wasted time. You might also have some relational issues. You know, you might say, why did that person tell me that? Why did I not understand who I was? Listen, all of those feelings are incredibly valid, and you're right. You're right to feel those things. You're right to feel frustrated, angry, disappointed, upset. But there is wisdom. So there is wisdom to glean from this. And the big wisdom is it's all a journey. The best thing about guitars is they really help you understand who you are, and they help you learn about yourself and grow along the way. I am an entirely different person from the person who bought this guitar to the person who bought this guitar in the summer of 2020. In those, 12 years, very, very different. Now, I'm so excited for Eric. I'm glad that he owns this guitar. I'm glad that it's close by and I know where it is and I got to play it and I got to have the experience of seeing it today. But I also rejoice in the fact that I know myself. One of the biggest hurdles I overcame in my guitar playing is just the pressure to love rosewood guitars, where mahogany guitars, for me, just sound awesome, play great. They hit my vibe. They just work really well. So if you're feeling embarrassed, that's valid, but don't stay there. Staying there is a bad place. Keep moving, keep finding cool guitars, use the skills you learn in this class. Onward, upward, let's keep moving. You're awesome. Buffering. Here's the closing. What'd you think? Isn't that cool? Man, I saw that guitar. So the guitar's owned by my old guitar teacher, Eric Hedrick, who is amazing. He is, I mean, do you have people you just admire? Like, I just admire Eric. He is kind, and he is wonderful, and he is so brilliantly talented, and he is the most humble person I've ever met in my life. So he's a remarkable person, and I'm so thankful that he owns that guitar. I'm glad he owns that guitar. And I kind of made a joke with him when I was borrowing that guitar. This is like 3 years ago now, 2.5 years ago that I borrowed that guitar. I was like, if you ever want to sell it. He's like, I'm never selling this guitar. He knows me. So anyway, well, thanks for watching this video. I'm Jeremy, this is Guitar Hunter. I might pull out, only have a couple videos that ever just didn't see the light of day. There are a couple. So if you want to see more of them, let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you're subscribed. And yeah, thanks for watching. I'm Jeremy. See ya. Oh, go fill the world with music and friendship.